Good morning. It's John's D&D vlog, episode number 21. My name is Jonathan Scott. Today we're going to talk about White Plume Mountain. As usual, as always with these module reviews that I do, please, if you're a player, don't watch this because I'm going to be giving away stuff that will make your experience less fun. So please don't watch this episode any further if you're a player. So as I was saying, we're going to talk this week about White Plume Mountain. I just got done running this module with a bunch of kids, and they had a lot of fun doing it. This came from 1979 by a guy named Lawrence Schick. He was a guy who was looking for a job with TSR, as the story goes. So he wanted to audition, so his version of auditioning was to take a module fully made and send it into the company and see what they thought about it, and they liked it so much that they just published it as is. And it was one of the first modules out in 1979. For the record, 1979, Love Boat was in its third season. MASH was still on the air. It was in his 8th season. And honestly speaking, if you think about MASH or the Love Boat, which would you rather see? Either of those, or would you rather go through this? I would much rather go through this than either one of those shows. 70s kind of stunk, but it gave us D&D and some pretty good music. In episode 9 of my blog, I went through and I kind of thumbed through this one, so I'm not going to show you that one again. But I will go through the original monochrome one. It's pretty. The coolest thing about it was this big, huge double fold illustration of the crab. I was really happy about that. I just loved the modules back then. They just had such a classic look to them. It was republished here in 1987 as a part of this. It's not a super module. You know, it's not like GDQ 1 to 7. It's not one big, long, continuous story. The S in S1, S2, S3, S4. If I understand this right, it stands for special. So they're not actually intended to be run as one big long story, but nonetheless they published them as one in this. They changed S1 a lot, but they didn't change White Plume Mountain, I believe, at all. I believe the White Plume Mountain that's listed in here is the same as what you would find in the module itself, and that's good. I noticed that when for S3, for S1 they made big changes, and for S3 in here they changed all the room numbers. That was kind of frustrating. So I just wanted to show you the DM's guide I made for this module. I make them for all the modules. As a rule, if you see one of my videos about a module up on the net, it means that there's also a guide like this on the net somewhere for you to download. I don't know why, but of late Facebook hasn't been letting me upload anything. So right now, as it stands, my guides aren't up on the net, but I just thought I'd show you what I had made. So anyway, this is the guide I made for S2 White Plume Mountain. I just do this because sometimes it's hard to learn the modules, and this I think helps people out, so we'll just go through it. We'll go through the super brief breakdown. White Plume Mountain is about these 3 weapons, and they've all been stolen by a wizard by the name of Caraptus. And each one of the owners approaches the members of your party and gives them a deal. If you can go and get back my weapon for me, I will give you... And then they don't exactly specify in the module what the thing they'll get in return is, but it's something that's wonderful that the players will really be happy to get. So I guess you as the DM get to choose what that is. But I include Thacos because they did include them in the original module. I included also the XP value and the GP value for those 3 weapons. It was really hard to figure this out. I just kind of had to base it on other weapons that I've seen in like the Dungeon Master's Guide and such. My own advice, you can take it or leave it as you please. It's just more or less how I chose to run it. I also included stats for the vampire that's in the module, but once again, this is just my idea. So you can take it or leave it as you please. But it is nice to have the vampire completely all fleshed out. I also give some advice on how you can run the vampire to make him even more deadly. I mean, sometimes it's hard to know how to run some stuff, and this is just good advice on how to run the vampire. I got it from people on the net. One thing that I really care about are these maps that I drew. I redrew all of the maps. I really like it when in each area I can see what the thing is that I'm going to be encountering there. It's nice to see how the stuff that's happening in one area will affect the areas around it too. It just makes it a lot easier to get through it. I include these maps that don't have any description blanks in them, so you can use these with like Roll20, and then if you prefer a single page version. I also include these XP lists at the end. I think it makes life a lot easier for the DM if you just know, you just walk into a room and you can see how much XP a given encounter is worth. I think it saves you a lot of time. If you've got the ability, if Facebook has been letting me upload, You'll find the description for how to do the download in the description text for each video. I hope they'll let me upload it here pretty soon, because it's very frustrating to not have these guides out there available to you guys. So anyway, check it out. I think it's a valuable thing to have access to. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time and think about the reasoning behind all of the things that are happening in this module. So my biggest question is why? Why would a whole bunch of extremely powerful, wealthy owners be willing to pay anything in order to get their weapons back? So the first thing that came to mind is that perhaps intelligent weapons are actually the target of a magic jar spell. So if inside of intelligent weapons there's actually like an intelligent being, and perhaps even like a family member, that explains why people would be so willing to pay anything in order to get the thing back. Keeping all that in mind, what sorts of people would be in each of the weapons? So in my campaign, this is what I did. So Wave, the Trident, I had inside of Wave be a ship captain who was the previous captain of a boat, and the current captain uses Wave a lot because the previous captain was so knowledgeable about the seas. So then what about Whelm? I just had him be a high-level Dwarven cleric who was the mentor of the current leader of a given church. And then Black Razor, in my campaign anyway, I had him be the father of the person who's currently running the Fighters Guild in my big main city of Eastbrook. So anyway, because the soul that's inside of each of these weapons is such an important thing to the current owners, they're willing to pay to get the weapons back. And the module doesn't say exactly what each of the owners is willing to pay in order to get the weapons back. So what sort of a price would be worth this? What I ended up choosing is to give each of the members who successfully completed the mission a ring of one wish. And in that way, it is kind of the truth. You can say, oh, you can have anything if you get it back. Granted, you're limited by the limitations on a wish spell, but still, it's an immensely big thing to give to somebody. A lot of people have kind of complained about Dungeons and Dragons modules. They say, well, why in the world would so many monsters just stand around and wait for people to show up and kill them? That's not what monsters would do. And for the most part, I actually kind of agree with the criticism. But when it comes to this module, it's the only time in all of D&D moduledom, whatever you want to call it, where it actually kind of makes sense, because you have to understand what's going on here. This entire experience is being run and controlled by a wizard named Caraptus. He never shows up in the module itself. You never actually see him. But nonetheless, he's the guy who stole the weapons, and he's the guy who made the dungeon up, and he's the guy who put the monsters in there, and he invests time and energy, seeing to their needs while they're in the dungeon. So this isn't without precedent in science fiction fantasy. I mean, it's been done before. In the same year as this module was released, these comics came out from Marvel Comics, the X-Men series, and Arcade, the supervillain called Arcade. I guess he doesn't have any superpowers. That's what he does. He sets up these big, huge dungeons and has people go through them and tries to kill them off. It's a puzzle. It's a game. And if you win, you win. And if you lose, you die. So it's not without precedent. And in more modern times, I don't watch R-rated movies, but I've heard that the guy Jigsaw from the Saw movies has a similar thing going on. So in this one instance, a big, huge dungeon full of monsters that are just standing around hanging out, waiting for people to show up and kill them, it actually kind of makes sense. So this is the output of a module survey I did back in March of 2015. What I did was I listed all the different famous modules that everyone voted on in my survey. The blue ones are the ones everybody liked. The red ones are the ones people didn't seem to care as much about. The white ones are the ones people didn't seem to have an opinion on. But then I listed them here according to what level spread of character should be allowed into the module to do it. So the low-level introductory modules are up here, and then the very high-level modules are down here. And down here are kind of like campaign things where any level character can come in and walk around in it. So I'll just do a close-up here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But anyway, as you can see, it just progresses. So here are all the first-level modules, the introductory modules where you can just jump in as a first-level character and walk around for a while. But then the modules slowly get stronger and stronger and stronger. Here's S2 White Plume Mountain. But anyway, for the record, all these Dragonlance modules, they were poorly reviewed, but honestly speaking, everybody really loves them at the same time. The main reason why everybody was mad about these modules is because sometimes Tracy Hickman takes over your characters for a while. Everybody really likes the modules. They're red right here, but don't worry about it. They're actually very popular. A lot of people really love them. But anyway, as you can see, it goes all the way up here, and then the strongest module around is this Earthshaker one. So anyway, if Facebook ever allows me to upload stuff again, I'll be happy to put links to this in the description. You can check there now and see if a download link is listed. But anyway, I just thought I'd share this with you. It's a handy way for a DM to know what to put his players through next. So I'm going to talk about module progressions for a little while. I haven't spoken about these yet, but it seems like a fitting place to discuss it after having shown the previous chart. Anyway, as a DM, you're free to run your players through any adventure you wish. Any sequence is fine. Some sequences of modules make more sense than others, and some sequences are actually designed to be run together. You're free to do as you please. These are the two progressions that I like to use. Both have been a lot of fun. In both progressions so far, I haven't made it to the end of either one of them, but we've been doing them now for years, and it's been a lot of fun. So I'm just going to talk about some war stories, stuff that happened to us as we were going through the module. Anyway, I always change things in my modules to make them a little bit harder. My group was slightly higher level, so I actually did need to move things up a little bit to make it a good challenge for them. Also, from what I've seen, D&D modules tend to give out a lot of magic items, so PCs can often get really powerful a little too fast, in my opinion. It's important to keep things in check a little, so anyway, that's why I made things harder. For the record, White Plume Mountain, the module name, refers to a volcano, and there's a constant steady in-stream of water that hits the lava in the volcano and shoots out the top as a big white plume of steam. So anyway, that's what that's all about. The effect creates some pretty cool imagery. It's got a really cool atmosphere within this place. Anyway, for the most part, my players didn't have a very hard time with this module. Here are some of the more interesting parts of the experience we had, though. In room 17, there's a big, huge, giant crab inside of a big bubble. So my players went in, and the first thing they did when they saw the crab was they shot an arrow at it, and they missed. And the arrow hit the bubble, and according to the actual module, the bubble should have ruptured and everybody should have died instantly. But that would have been a little bit too abrupt for me, so I chose to give them some time. So what ended up happening was they killed the crab, like, almost immediately, but I was having them take damage every round from the boiling water that was spilling on the floor all around them. So like on the first round that they were in the room, they took 1d6. The second round they took 1d20, and then the third round was 4d20 of damage from the boiling water that was in the room. But then on the fourth round, if they're still in the room, that's when they die. So my players, what they ended up doing, they managed to kill the crab like right away. I was really impressed with the rolls that they had. And all of the other players ran for the doors down south, the triple doors down south. But the one fighter, he saw Whelm, so he chose to grab it. And he took damage the first, second, and third rounds. He managed to survive the 4d20 of damage from the boiling water. And he made it out and made it look like a hero. It was fun. They also went down to room 4, where they found those 9 globes. And there's a false key in 8 of them. The room wasn't strong enough for me, so I chose to make it so that if every time you put in a false key and you turn the key, the door would zap you. So the first time you did it, you took 1d4 of electrical damage, and then 1d6, 1d8, 1d10, 1d12, 1d30, and then all the way up to 1d100. And somehow my party managed to find every false key before they found the real one. So that meant that the very last key, the very last false key that they put in the lock and turned, the fighter that did it took 1d100 damage. It could have killed him instantly, but somehow he managed to survive all of that. But anyway, they ended up getting out of the room. Everyone was really excited. Caraptus isn't actually in this module anywhere, but I put him in. I set up this loudspeaker system all throughout the place. It was just a really tinny, old-sounding loudspeaker system, and every time they did anything stupid, I had Caraptus start insulting them for having done something so stupid. Oh, that was so dumb. Oh, you guys are so fun to watch. Do it again, do it again. And the whole time they're going through this module, they've got Caraptus talking to them in their ear. My students are Japanese kids. They're not used to being treated like that, right? By the time the module was done, they hated Caraptus. They really wanted to kill him, which they couldn't have done because he was probably like 30th level. Anyway, it was fun for them. I really made it an emotionally involving experience for them, and I think they enjoyed it. Over in room 27, when they finally got their hands on Black Razor, there was a big surprise there too. They got Black Razor from the ogre, and the main fighter grabbed the sword, and as soon as he got it in his hand, see, Black Razor has a bloodlust. It wants to kill people. It's got an appetite, and if it's not killing something, it doesn't feel content. So as soon as the main fighter grabbed Black Razor, I had Black Razor start talking him into doubting one of the other players in the group. I tried to get infighting to happen, which is usually a really scary thing to do, because you can destroy entire games that way, but it's part of the module, so I kind of felt like I had to do it. I just started filling up the fighter's head with doubts and paranoias about one of the other players in the group. Yeah, Komei's acting strange, isn't she? Are you sure that she really is Komei? They had just finished fighting an ogre mage who was disguised as a halfling, so believing that something else was disguised was a pretty believable possibility for them. I almost talked him into attacking her. Luckily for the group, though, he put Black Razor down and didn't touch it again. He knew it was a really powerful, strong weapon, but he also realized he didn't want to have those kind of temptations all the time, so he put Black Razor down. I was really proud of him. I don't like playing the part of the devil, but when all is said and done, if a group isn't experiencing problems, then they're not experiencing drama either. The game becomes very boring. And it all turned out for the best. Eventually they destroyed Black Razor. I was really proud of them for doing that. When the module was more or less finished and they had all 3 weapons and they were on their way out of the dungeon, I had them meet Caraptus himself, along with the 2 Afridi. The party was then transported to a huge arena that had 2 ancient red dragons in it. Before the fight even began, though, the party assumed it was an illusion, and then they all rolled their disbelieving rolls, and the illusion disappeared. So Afridi have the ability to do illusions, and so does Caraptus, so that seemed like something we could do. Anyway, Caraptus was really frustrated by that. He wanted to have fun watching them die, and he didn't get to have his fun, so he kicked them out of the dungeon. You guys aren't fun anymore. So the party got to exit the module with all 3 weapons, so they won. Upon returning to Eastbrook, one of the PCs discovered her husband from X1, the Isle of Dread, sitting on her doorstep. I've mentioned this in the last episode. She had gotten tricked into getting married by the chief of a village. So anyway, he rode a canoe all the way here from the Isle of Dread, and he somehow managed to find out where she lived and was sleeping on his door, right? Anyway, the owners of the weapons gave each party member a ring of 1 wish. So the female PC used her ring of 1 wish and wished for 1,000,000 gold pieces. And I had them trickle into the living room of her home, 1 gold piece at a time. It took days for all the money to show up. Anyway, when the husband of the PC saw all the money, so he's like king of his village, she's chief of his village, and the woman is his wife. So he looked at all the gold and decided, oh, this is mine. I'm king, I'm husband, this is my money. So as soon as he actually tried taking any money, the rest of the group basically beat him. They beat the crap out of him. And then the one PC who could teleport grabbed him, teleported back to the Isle of Dread, dropped him into the center of the village, said goodbye, and then she teleported back. It was a very fun divorce. Anyway, eventually they did destroy Black Razor, and then they were brave enough to tell the Fighters Guild main teacher that they had just destroyed Black Razor, even though inside of Black Razor was the soul of his father. That led to a pretty interesting fight as well. But anyway, it was a very exciting module for us. We had a lot of fun. I think that's all I'm going to say about S2. Check it out. It's worth your time. It takes some effort, but it's a good module. Anyway, have a good week. Have good games. Have a nice day.